Guys, and welcome back to Gura. And so, okay, I need to go over some things before we start. So, my voice might sound a little different. That's because I'm sick. I think I might have COVID or the flu. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I'm sick, and my nose is a little stuffy and stuff. And yeah, being sick is not fun, guys. So if I sound a little weird and I snuffle and stuff, I'm just sick. And also, if y'all hear cars in the background, that's because cars are driving by, and I can't stop that. So, guys, welcome back to Gura. So, in this last episode, we were talking about the open oceans. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the reefs. So, coral reefs have a wide diversity of life. Like, you go on the coral reef, you might even find an undiscovered species that we have not found. That's how strange and open the coral reefs are. And these reefs are going to be dominantly held by the tube bodies. The tube bodies are basically going to lead to pretty much every sessile animal on Gura. So let's go ahead and jump right into it and see what their descendants look like, shall we? So let's begin. This is the tube tree. Now the tube tree, despite its name, of course, is not a plant. It is a descendant of the tube, fan tubes, shall I say. They have grown to the size of a small tree. They act sort of like the trees on, sorry about that glitch. These things glitch sometimes. And around the size of a small tree. And, okay, what's pretty interesting about these things is that they come in multiple colors. There's green ones with purple spots, red ones with blue spots, which is nice. The dominant color is an orangish color. Now, what's really interesting is that these spots are bioluminescent. So during the night, these will glow a very beautiful color. This attracts certain plankton and microbes to the main feeding mouths, so they primarily feed on plankton, which is very interesting. They are the main sort of things in reefs. They mainly inhabit the deeper parts of the reefs, like reefs that are about 20 to 30 feet deep. They do not inhabit the shallow reefs, which are only about 6 to 8 feet deep, or even shallower, sorry. And so they don't inhabit those. They only inhabit the deep reefs, which is, understandable. These are around the size of a small tree. And I mean small tree because they're not as big as some giant jungle tree. Which is very interesting for these, strange tube bodies, which is nice. I would like them a lot. So cool. They have a cousin. Well, not really a cousin. They kind of look like cousins, but they're not related at all. These are actually closely related to the massive tube bodies. This is the pot body. Now, the pot body has a pot-like body. These also have bioluminescent organs and different patterns and colors. The primary color is green and purple, but they can also come in other shades of colors like red and purple and yellow and green, which is nice and stuff. That was loud. And just like the tube trees, the pot bodies produce bioluminescence in order to attract different types of plankton into their main filter. Now, here's another organism. This organism is also a descendant of the fan bodies. Now, you might be wondering, what is this? What's coming out of their mouth? Well, that's their tongue. Their tongue developed from types of their fleshy, gushy stuff around the esophagus that have now turned into a long tongue. This tongue is tipped with a sharp point made out of iron that they shoot out to stab into small creatures to eat. So these are pretty much the anemones of Gura, which anemones, some species, eat in a similar way. They have mouths in each direction, and once they sense something around them, they shoot out their tongue and stab into it, dragging it into the mouth and swallowing it whole. All the mouths, of course, lead to one major stomach. If it eats too much and its stomach is filled too much, it will stop spewing out their tongues and wait until they fully digest and pass it through, and then they'll get ready to eat again. So, it's kind of scary if you're a small organism swimming through. Literally have a sharp metal-tipped spear tongue stabbed through your body. That would not be the most fun thing, but, I mean, it's good for these guys. And this is another strange creature. This is the mimic tube. The mimic tube, you might be wondering, what is that? Why is it called a mimic tube? Well, these creatures have developed something called defensive mimicry, and they mimic these spotted bodies. They mimic their colors and patterns to appear poisonous to predators. Since they are sessile, they can't wiggle around, but they will lift up their head, which is the only mobile part, and wiggle it around in an attempt to mimic one of these spotted bodies, which is what defensive mimicry is. It's a creature that basically evolves to resemble another creature. We'll be seeing that a little bit in this episode. Now, this is not a mimic. This is really poisonous. This is the scaled body. The scaled body kind of resembles the pot bodies, but it's not really closely related at all. But they have yellow and orange patterns from scale-like structures. Now, when these creatures are threatened, they release a slime similar to that of hagfish. This slime, unlike hagfish, is actually very, very poisonous. And it can clog up the gills and throat of organisms, which can cause death among any variety of organisms to, get eaten by it. So, do not touch organisms that look like this, because it's very, very bad. These creatures may also develop symbiotic relationships with a future creature that we'll be talking about. Maybe. So, just don't touch organisms that are orange and yellow, because they're most definitely going to be poisonous unless they're a mimic. These are another organism descendant from the tube bodies. Just the average tube bodies, not no megatube bodies or fan bodies. This is the bristlemouth. The bristlemouth have developed bristles around the opening of their bodies. These also hunt plankton and small organisms. They produce a scent that attracts plankton to the main filter, and then they suck them in and filter them out with bristles. They have a much more efficient way of feeding than many other of the tube bodies. And similar to many of the tube bodies, they have different variants. Very different variants. Some are very tall and sort of twisty, These ones are called the twisty bristles. They are dominantly red. Then there are the small ones. These ones are very small, and they grow in great batches. These usually grow in twin pairs. So, yeah, they usually just grow in twin pairs. However, the blue ones, they can grow in great patches. So, yeah, you have these strange organisms with bristles and, tube bodies, which is nice. Now, we have the neotenous pupa. This is the sand body. The sand body are primarily going to be found underneath the sand of the reefs, mainly feeding on detritus and other things, and filtering throughout the sand. They have light-sensing organs around the face, which allows them to detect light. Means that they have a primitive form of seeing, which is way more efficient than many of the two bodies, because, many of the two bodies are blind and deaf. These guys can sense vibrations, and, they can somewhat see, which will probably help these creatures in the near future to escape from predators. So, we like our sandworms. But this is the toothworm. The toothworm is it is a really, really strange creature, I would say. Very strange. It has developed teeth made out of calcium. These teeth are used to break through the hardened flesh of many tube bodies so they can eat them and lay their eggs in their carcass so their larvae can actually eat. Their larvae don't drift off in the current. Instead, they feed on the main carcass that their mother lays their eggs in. They also have light-sensing organs, however, they're not very visible. So, you have that. So, if you're a tube body, you need to watch out for this creature, as it can probably just chew through your flesh and either eat you or lay its eggs in you, which is not fun at all. Which, yikes. Okay, now we're off to the first bones descendants and all the other descendants. This is the Gura gardener. The Gura gardener is a really strange organism, as they have developed a sort of symbiotic relationship with a type of plant species. Symbiotic relationships are made up of mainly three groups: mutualism, in which two organisms are helped, communalism, and parasitism. These creatures have a sort of mutualism symbiotic relationship. They have cultivated large gardens of these plants that have developed a primitive fruit spore sac that has flesh that is quite sweet. And they protect the plants from other herbivores so they can have it themselves. They protect it from other herbivores and other things. But they help with the plant's fertilization and life cycle, eating the fruits so they can have the seeds, and then pooping out the seeds, which grows more plants. They will even put mimic bodies around the area so herbivores will stay away from the area, as these creatures understand that the mimic bodies are not actually poisonous. They are purple to blend in with the plants and have green bits because the plant that we'll be talking about later in the episode has some green on it. So, you already have somewhat intelligent creatures gardening in the sea floor on the coral reefs. They do this only in the deep waters of the coral reefs. However, some creatures will take advantage of this. This is the gardener's mimic. The gardener's mimic is, very, very strange. They have developed offensive mimicry, and they mimic gardeners. They mimic the Guran gardeners. They've mimicked the patterns and colorations of them. But they're not looking for fruit. Instead, they'll just mimic one of the gardeners. The gardeners usually live in social groups, tending to acres and acres of the plants. So these creatures will usually pick off their larvae sometimes, or even smaller adult gardeners, which, well, they're predators. So it's probably best to make sure that you know everybody is good. I mean, well, yeah, take a look at these pictures. These are two different types of animals, yet, well, they look the same. And these are what these guys do. So, watch out. If you're one of the Guran gardeners, make sure that none of your helpers are mimics, which is pretty scary for many of the Guran gardeners. Now this is, the carpet bone. The carpet bone is a very strange creature. Now, these creatures are a descendant of the bone shark, and they have convergently evolved with an earth wobbegong and angel shark. They lie low on the seabed, waiting for any creature above them to slowly swim above them. Once they detect that something is near, they will lunge out and snatch it up. They have a long trunk jaw with sharp teeth that can allow them to snatch if it even swims up. Then they bring it down and crush it under the two lower jaws. And then they chew it up and swallow it whole. Then they lie back down and wait for the next creature to walk under them. As you can see, this poor Guran gardener did not survive this carpet bone. So, you have to watch out where you swim or step if you're in the Guran oceans. These creatures can be found in both the deep reefs and shallow reefs. So make sure you watch out if these creatures are near. Then this is the reef skin. The reef skin is kind of strange. It has developed bright patterns around their body that mimics the colors of the reef around them. And they developed purple spots that, well, similar to their ancestors in the open oceans, they still have the purple plant-like structures around their bodies. And they're not too different from their cousins. They still feed on plants. So any plants that have fruit on them or smaller leaves will probably get eaten by these creatures. So nice. They're, well, basically the same. So, but something interesting is that unlike their cousins out there in the open oceans, which, even if they're in desperate need of food, won't eat meat, these ones will. If they're in desperate need of food, they'll probably target a small tube body using their long, muscular, strong upper jaw trunk lip to tear them out from the ground and eat them. So, better not get one if it's in starving, dying conditions, or you'll probably get eaten. They'll even eat the larvae of smaller creatures. So, even though they might seem kind of friendly, they're not too friendly. And this guy is the digit trunk. The digit trunk has developed a long trunk on its face that has developed two-digit-like structures developed from the main two teeth that its, ancestor had. Its ancestor was the lip sleeper. Sorry, I'm just daisy today. And they have developed their original bristle-like structures that they use to filter feed and fused them together into two large molar teeth to grind up from animals to plants, making them omnivores. They also have bristles around their face to develop nice, strange communication. Take a listen. So yes, it is very strange, their strange bristling calls. Now, what's interesting about these creatures and their two-piece trunk is that they're similar to many types of pufferfish within their mating rituals. They will construct different circular patterns around the reefs. They will decorate it with nice rocks or even tube bodies that are pretty looking. And males will let out their mating call, which sounds like this. And then once a female comes by, she will judge whichever male has the prettiest markings, and then she will mate with them. This can lead to many males developing nice intricate patterns. This is the reason why their trunk, which has developed now 2 digits, is so manipulative. Although they have a trunk that's easy for manipulation, they're not rather too intelligent. They're around as smart as a common fish. But this is a very strange way for manipulation. Maybe this might lead to certain things off in the future. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to wait. I got big plans for Gura in the future. Foreshadowing? So, yeah, nice, beautiful elephant fish creatures. Kind of cute. Now it's time to go to the shallower parts of the reefs. One where the water can only be about 6 to 8 feet deep. This is around when we're starting to get towards the beach. And that would be nice, I guess. There's nothing on land. It's decrepit. So, the shallow parts of the reefs could also have a wide variety of organisms that call it home. Speaking of that, this is the first creature. The crocotrunk is a very strange creature. They sort of resemble crocodiles, but they also resemble many types of carnivorous fish like gars or even barracudas. These creatures have developed very strange skin patterns. You might be wondering, well, what's the skin patterns for? Well, it's sort of meant to mimic the strange bends of light that shine through the water. It's sort of meant to mimic that. They have developed a brown head to mimic sand. They also have very complicated calls with their bristles. Take a listen. Now, you might be wondering, where's their dorsal fin? Well, these creatures are actually descendant from the first bone, not no bone shark, so they do not have a dorsal fin. They are carnivores and will feed on anything that they can get their jaws around that's meat-based. So, that's kind of scary if you're a small creature, because these creatures have a bite force similar to that of a bone shark, and a bone shark's bite force is similar to that of a tiger shark. So you do not want to get bit by this creature. It would hurt very badly. So, yeah, even if you're in the shallow reefs, you need to be very careful, as these creatures will bite, and it will not feel good when they bite. Now, on the other parts of the shallow reefs have often rock formations and twistings of tube bodies. These creatures live. This is the reef death. The reef death is a descendant of, well, the violet death, but they have developed something that the violet death doesn't have. Now they have sand-colored skin, green patterns, which are actually unknown what these are for, but they also have orange and yellow patterns. And you're probably wondering, well, this thing is obviously poisonous. Well, they're not really poisonous, but instead they're more so venomous. But we'll get onto that in a little bit. These creatures, of course, sort of resemble moray eels or, snakes. Yeah, snakes. Many snakes are venomous, just like these guys. Let's go ahead and talk about their venom. So, these creatures have developed venom sacs between each of their 3 fangs. This venom sac releases a toxin that makes blood clotting temporarily shut down, so you would bleed out. It also numbs the area, so you probably wouldn't even feel it when these creatures bit you, so you would slowly bleed out. Once you bleed out, since these creatures' jaws open up like this, they will swallow you whole, similar to that of a snake. So, yeah, they've developed patterns and warning signals to make sure that creatures approaching, like potential threats, understand that they are poisonous, or venomous, should I say, and they won't come near. However, they are actually very stealthy organisms, so it can be hard to tell if they're slithering up on you or not. So, always be careful. If you see strange patterns of green in the sand, do not approach, because there are definitely one of these creatures near. So, yeah, nice venomous eel alien. Lovely. Now, various species of Premia first bones live here. Sorry, I kind of forgot the scientific name. I have a short term. I can't think very well, guys. So these creatures are, similar to various types of marine fish. They have various types of morphs. So there's blue ones with strange patterns, green ones with red patterns, and blue and orange ones with purple patterns. So, very pretty. These creatures primarily live in the shallow reefs, however they can also be found in the deep reefs. Just depends. Which is pretty. They're just like fish here on Earth. Oh my gosh, I'm nutting. Now it's time for the 4 stars descendants. This is the clam star. The clam star is a descendant from the shellbeak. Now, they have fused their back pair of legs to hold up their shell, and they use their front pair of legs to open and also to move across and gather food. They have developed eyes, of course, their eyes and their beaks. So these creatures, of course, are basically the Gura's equivalent of clams or mussels here on Earth. And they have developed, their long beak to pretty much crack anything from flesh, bone, small bones, and even plants. So they are omnivores, feeding on pretty much anything that they can find. And when they are startled, they retract their head and tentacles into the shell and close it off. And it can be hard to tell if that's an edible thing or not, because sometimes the shells are empty. So it can be hard to tell if it's an empty shell or a shell that has a creature in it. So nice alien clams. I wonder if they taste just like clams. Oh, and you got this creature. Now, this is the giant 4-star. The giant 4-star is a descendant of the 4-star. Instead of developing a body plan similar to that of many invertebrates with them walking, these creatures are kind of like giant sea stars here on Earth. Except unlike the 4-stars at the beginning of the episodes, they actually have eyes. They have eyes above their head to detect if something is near. However, surprisingly, these creatures don't actually have very many predators. The only real threat that they might have are the carpet bones. That's kind of it. And no other creature really attacks them. The only reason they have eyes on the top of their head is because sometimes a croc trunk might try to eat them. Sometimes. Not likely, but sometimes they will try. And so they can defend themselves by flailing their tentacles to attack. They have developed nice patterns around their bodies and are kind of mainly just gentle giants, similar to larger sea stars. Oh, I forgot. Sea stars are predators. Well, they're gentle giants on Gura, so nice and pretty. Now back. This is the Gura's equivalent of a turtle. This is the flat-shelled, Alright guys, I'm back. So, okay, a little bit off topic, the strange leaves crunching in the background. So, this random deer was approaching me in my car, because I'm sitting in my car, because my mom goes and looks for random stuff on the side of the road. That's kind of strange, but she does it. And I was sitting in the car because I wanted to do this. This random deer was approaching me. I don't know what it wanted. That deer probably has one of the disease in its brain or something, because that deer was not scared of me at all, so I gotta be careful. But it's kind of goofy looking, guys. That might have been a rabbit deer. Skinwalkers are out there. But anyways, like I was saying, I was sort of startled, and I was just saying random words because this deer was just staring at me when walking. So, but this creature is the star turtle. The star turtles are relatively slow, peaceful herbivores. Now, unlike Earth, which has, well, they have sea turtles, which can freely swim through the water, like in this picture. These creatures cannot freely swim throughout the water. Well, for one, their shell is too heavy, and they don't have any bones to support the shell, so they just use their strong muscles and hydraulic muscles to slowly crawl on the seafloor. Kind of like a baby sea turtle slowly crawling through the beach. This is what these kind of creatures move through. However, they're sort of clever in a way. To where they will actually put certain poisonous species on the back of their shell. These creatures can be found in both the shallow reefs and the deep reefs, but are more commonly going to be found in deep reefs more than shallow reefs. However, they will come to the shallow reefs in order to breed and sort of live sometimes. Many poisonous species they'll put on their shell, and they will carry them around, so the poisonous species will get transported, while these guys will not get eaten. So, it's kind of like hermit crabs with certain species of small anemones, so that's nice. Oh, and you got this. This is the brush claw. The brush claw is descendant of the squishy crab. Now, they are purple because these creatures mimic plants and have developed a long membrane similar to that of a stingray to slowly glide through the water. Instead of being active predators, like the squishy crabs in the open oceans, these are actually cleaner species. They have developed thick bristles, kind of like a toothbrush, to brush the teeth of mainly predators, because these creatures are mesocarnivores. They brush the teeth of the carnivores, or creatures that eat meat in their diet. And once they get all the particles of food in their teeth, in the bristles, they will strain it out and clean it with their beak, and then they just get some free meals. So, exchanging in goods and services. So this can be like cleaner fish here on Earth, except these would be more like arthropods or invertebrates. So, yeah, you got a cleaner guy. He likes to clean with his claws, and he glides through the water. They're actually not really preyed upon by many predators, as most of the time predators would want their teeth to be clean, so they don't really have any predators, and they're free to breed. However, sometimes predators will eat them if they're hungry, and it could be like a trap or lure. Sometimes, not really. But most of the time, these creatures are safe to breed and lay their eggs and hatch their larvae. So, that's nice. You got these toothbrush stingrays that don't have bones. So, it's nice. So, the shallow reefs are a nice, very nice place. And you got this guy. Another part of the shallow reefs. This is the purple star turtle. They are a very close relative of the star turtle. Now, what's interesting, you might be wondering, well, why did this have a purple shell? It's not because these creatures are attempting to mimic plants. No. It's because they actually have types of algae cells within their shell that allows them to sort of do a photosynthesis with their shell through the algae cells. Now, this might sound a little far-fetched, but it actually is true among leaf sheeps, which have developed algae cells in their bodies in order to do photosynthesis. Which, aren't these guys so cute? Oh, they look more like cows to me. But these creatures have developed that too. The algae shares some of the sugars that it makes with them, and in return, the algae gets to move around to certain spots of the reef by these guys as they are inside the shell. It also provides protection for the algae that is inside. So, nice symbiotic relationship with the purple algae and these guys. So nice, and friendship. So, yeah. You got these little guys. They're primarily found in the shallow reefs. However, they will sometimes go to the deep reefs sometimes they do it to breed. Because these creatures do not eat meat. They are herbivores, which is nice. But then, they're preyed upon by this guy. This guy is the raptor crab, which these creatures are descendant from the little guy beaks in episode 2. They have developed strong, muscular finger digits among their thick legs, and they can sort of scuttle really fast across the sand to eat creatures. They've developed a body that's sort of similar to that of a crab, but not really. Just sort of like beginning stages of carcinalization. They mainly use their beak to crack open the shells of the purple turtle stars and eat their flesh. That's primarily the only creature it eats. However, it will seek out larvae of invertebrates and vertebrates and eat them too. So you got a predator on your hands here. They'll pretty much eat anything, even the cleaner guys. They'll eat them too. Nothing safe from the raptor crabs. So nice and terrifying. Now, this guy. What about him? Well, he eats fruits because, I don't know. Guys, I don't know why they eat fruits, but they like a sweet tooth. So now it's time for us to do plants. So, that was really weird, guys. I don't know what happened there, so forgive me. They like to eat fruits in the shallow reefs, so a sort of sweet tooth. Not really, the fruit's not their main diet, but they'll also eat mainly meat. This, however, is the first plant we'll be talking about. This is the blossom fruit. The blossom fruit has developed its spore sac into fruit that contain around 10 seeds. They develop green bristles at the very top to attract certain creatures to eat their fruits, and so they can spread their seeds around. This is actually what the purple gardeners were cultivating in their gardens, so you have that. And they kind of resemble corn a little bit, but they don't have segments similar to that of corn. And nice. It's very nice for the gardeners to eat, because gardeners are the main creatures that feed upon their fruits, as other herbivores probably won't have the chance to feed on their fruits. So, mainly the Gura gardeners are going to be eating their fruits. So that's nice. But they have a mimic. Even plants are developing mimics. This is the mimic blossom. The mimic blossom has developed a fruit, a so-called fruit spore sac. The fruit spore sac also has seeds, and herbivores will be tricked by its smell, which smells like a nice sweet fruit. They'll be tricked into coming near it and eating it. But as soon as they bite into it, they will then realize that this is not what it seems. But it would already be too late. The seeds would already have gone down their digestive tract and will grow more plants. They trick herbivores into thinking that they're a sweet fruit. In reality, they are a bitter, not very good tasting fruit. They trick herbivores into eating them so they can reproduce with their seeds. So, you're getting tricked by plants, which, it's just it. So, if you're a herbivore, the way you tell if the fruit on these are too big, then you'll know it's a mimic blossom. And if it doesn't have the green little stem bristles sticking out from the top, you will know that this is not what it seems. So do not eat it, because it will not taste very good. It could even clog up your throat. So be careful. So be careful when you eat plants. This is the purple stalk. The purple stalk is a descendant from the twisting stalks. They have developed long leaves similar to it, but instead of twisting together to form great bunches, they actually are similar to the bamboo, creating sort of bamboo forests in the shallow reefs. This can provide shelter for many, many species. So they're still doing similar to what their ancestors are doing in the open oceans, except they don't twist together, which is nice. Their leaves are also pretty tasty for many creatures, so they will eat their leaves and also provide shelter for many creatures, which is nice for, well, many creatures. I mean, I would live in a purple bamboo forest that's underwater. I'll probably die, but, it's nice. And then we have this plant. This is the strange spike bulbs. The spike bulbs are a parasitic plant, sort of. Now, similar to many types of plants on Earth that grow on other plants. They grow on other plants. Except these plants do not really grow on other plants, as there's no real plant that's thick enough to support them. So You might be wondering, well, what do they mainly grow on? Well, they mainly grow on tube trees. But it's sort of parasitism, but it's sort of not. So it's kind of hard to explain. These creatures, of course, plants, do photosynthesis. So they get sunlight and sugars. And they share their sugars with the tube bodies, or the tube trees. So they sort of don't attack the plant by sending their immune system and chemicals to the plant to destroy it. So yeah, they sort of work together. So it's not really parasitism, but it's depends. You don't want too much of these plants on you because they could dig into your flesh too much and get on your organs, which would not be good with their roots. So yeah, they like growing on their nice big tube trees. You could find up to 1 to 2 of these plants on tube trees. So nice and fun. So is that it for all the plants? Well, of course it is. Now, in the next episode, we will be talking about some interesting things. So basically, guys, I hope you liked watching this episode. I will say that it is probably the noisiest episode yet because there are a lot of cars. It is very busy today out in the roads. I don't know why, but it is. So around the beginning of the episode, you probably heard a lot of cars moving by, and I'm sorry for that. I sadly cannot control traffic, which is sad. Also, if my voice sounds weird, I'm sorry. I'm sick. I'm very sick. I don't know why. I really haven't been around people that are sick, so I guess somebody was going around. And in the next episode of Gura, we'll be talking about freshwater and the invasion of land. And I cannot wait to see you there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye-bye.